Candace Owens has become a more complex figure. She left the Daily Wire. She fell out with Ben Shapiro, another right-wing commentator, over the issue of Israel. Candace Owens had the audacity to challenge the Israeli settler state, to call into question the genocide in Gaza, to actually say that every criticism of Israel is not anti-Semitic. And so she has been fired from right-wing media jobs. She has her own platform where she's doing well, but she has very excellently, she's kicking my ass, but she is still being attacked by the right. She's also being attacked by particular prominent Zionist figures who are trying to frame her as an anti-Semite, as a monster, as an advocate of violence. They're doing all the things. Well, she and Rabbi Shmuley have been going back and forth for a very long time. I mean, a long time. And if you don't know Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, Rabbi Shmuley Boteach is a very well-known rabbi who I would argue is an extremist. He is a Islamophobe, certainly an anti-Palestinian voice. He is unreasonable. He supports the genocide in Gaza. He supports the occupation of Palestine. He, to me, is wholly unreasonable. And in every venue where I have seen him speak, he likes to engage in ad hominems. I saw him do it with Norman Finkelstein. I watched him do every debate he's in. He talks about the person and he doesn't talk about the issues. They went on Piers Morgan last night for a showdown, Candace Owens and Rabbi Shmuley, and it was one for the ages. I'm not telling you to watch it. You probably, and I've had some conversations with y'all. It ain't y'all jam. It ain't y'all type of hype, as we used to say. But I last night sat up for an hour. I should have been watching Grey's Anatomy, but I watched an hour of this, the full hour debate. And some interesting moments came out where I gotta say, Candace Owens was owning Shmuley. I'm gonna show you one.
Prior to October 7th, I don't think many people were engaged with what is happening in Israel. You know, we kind of all said the same thing. Israel is our friend and ally. I count myself among those people. Post October 7th, the world, and especially I would say Zionists in media, were demanding that we all pay attention. When we began to pay attention, we didn't like what we saw. You cannot tell me to ever feel comfortable with 18,000 children being ruthlessly murdered. You can't get me to feel comfortable as a Christian with the amount of more explosives dropped, tons of explosives dropped on Gaza than were dropped in Hiroshima. This doesn't make sense to me. Gaza is 30 miles long, 7 miles wide. It's incredibly dense population. And this is, by the way, according to Haaretz, that 40,000 Palestinians have been murdered. I believe they're getting those numbers from the Gaza Health Ministry. And here's what I would like to say to you, Rabbi, since you're quoting scripture, okay? The one that's relevant to me is, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness. And if you'd like to dive into a little more scripture, I think what's relevant is Revelation 3:9. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. And I'm speaking directly to you, Rabbi Shmuley. The fact that you would try to say, I am Jewish and this is what I believe, and do and say the things that you are doing. People can see and hear evil. And what you are doing right now is an act of evil. The lies that you are telling, not just on me, but also on my family members, are a good example for the world to see what we are referring to when we call something radical Zionism.
Barks. She went in. I'm going to say a couple things about that. Again, sometimes, you know, blessings come in the packages you don't expect. Sometimes interesting arguments, powerful arguments come from people who you don't normally rock with. When you see a debate between Candace Owens and Rabbi Shmuley, I know if you like me, you like, ooh, couldn't happen the two worst debaters, you know what I mean? In the sense that, you know, Candace and I don't agree on 99% of the world, right? So it's hard to root for her. Rabbi Shmuley is human garbage on so many issues. I've watched him be just awful on. I'm not saying he's human garbage in general. I'm saying he's human garbage on several key issues. And so I'm damn sure not rooting for him on this issue. And so I didn't know what to expect in the debate. But Candace Owens dog walked Rabbi Shmuley through the entire debate. It got so bad, she was hitting him with points. And then Shmuley one time said, well, where's your evidence? Where's your source? Now, we're on national TV. I'm giving you a data point and you're asking for my source. So she looks down and says, well, let me find it, pulls it up, and proves that what she said was right. It was about the amount of weaponry and the amount of explosives, I believe, that Israel was using and throughout various moments in history compared to the way they're using it right now in Gaza. He said, what's your source? She pulls up the source and he says, you cheated. You used the computer. And Piers is like, but she was right. He's like, yeah, but we haven't fact checked it yet. She was like, well, here are the sources. Like, then after the debate, he makes like a TikTok or Instagram video, whatever. It says, Candace Owens brought a computer to a debate. She cheated. He didn't argue that her point was wrong. He didn't say that her fact was inaccurate. He said she only knew the fact after she looked it up. What kind of dumbass argument is that? Yeah, you might have been right, but you didn't know off the top of your head. This ain't a pop quiz. It's a debate, ultimately looking for truth. So she's quoting scripture. He's quoting scripture to Candace Owens, and that's when Candace bounced back with that, woe to he. Ooh, that's the same scripture that Prop Joe used in The Wire. Ooh, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter, if you want to add the last part to it. That's Isaiah 5:20. He put that on him and said, look, she said, don't act like what you're doing is principled. Don't act like what you're doing is good. You're one of those people that act like you're doing good, but actually doing evil. And you're one of those people that takes evil and acts like it's good. She's talking about the genocide. She talked about the density of Gaza. She talked about the bombs, the children, and she appealed to her Christian faith, which more Christians should do. More Muslims should do, more Jews should do, more, everybody should do this, right? And say, what are the best values of my tradition? The best values of my tradition, the best values of my faith say that I can't support a genocide. I can't support the killing of children. I can't support innocent people being harmed. Then she pulled out the other one. Now this is a tougher one. She pulled out the Synagogue of Satan from Revelations. If y'all don't know Revelations, open your books, church family, to the book of Revelation. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. I don't love that scripture because of the various ways that it has been used. Too often that scripture has been used to demonize Jewish people. Too often that scripture has been used to deny the legitimacy, the authenticity of particular strands, particular communities of Jews, right? That you all aren't the real Jews, you're just Jewish. These kind of anti-Semitic narratives that emerge. And so too often that Revelations quote is used, I think, in ways that do harm to my Jewish brothers and sisters. So I don't like to see that used. That's not what Candace was doing right there. Candace was doing the thing that I think makes more sense, right? Which is, she's saying, don't take this project of political Zionism. Don't take this settler colonial monstrosity. Don't take the statecraft of Israel, the genocidal actions of Gaza in Gaza, and put that on Judaism. Judaism is beautiful. Judaism is a rich tradition. Judaism values and prioritizes love and mercy and justice, welcoming the stranger. Judaism is not the problem. Jews are not the problem. He's saying that some of y'all, Candace is saying some of y'all are doing something problematic and conflating it with this beautiful faith tradition, this beautiful cultural tradition, this beautiful legacy. Don't take what Israel's doing. Don't take Netanyahu and his actions and say that that's just being Jewish. No, that's anti-Semitic because you're tying Judaism to all these awful things that Netanyahu is doing. Now, I would never say that Rabbi Shmuley is not a real Jew or that he's not Jewish. He is Jewish. He is a real Jew. I don't get into that. I think that's problematic. I'm not saying she's doing that. I'm saying I don't like to even approach that territory because it invariably becomes anti-Semitic. It invariably becomes a question of their Jewishness or of the legitimacy of their claims in ways that I don't feel comfortable with, that I don't think are ethical or moral or principled. So for that reason, again, I stay away from that scripture. I stay away from scripture in general in these kinds of engagements, but I don't rock with it. It makes me uneasy. But I see what Candace Owens was doing. I see where she was going with it. She's saying what's happening in Gaza is awful. Stop saying that it's not. Stop defending foolishness. Stop defending evil. And stop trying to say that whenever I disagree with you, that it's anti-Semitism. Because Shmuley even accused her of a blood libel in that debate for quoting a statistic that turned out to be right. So Candace Owens legitimately schooled Rabbi Shmuley, not just through scripture and not just in scripture, but by waging a powerful rejoinder to this idea that any criticism of Israel is anti-Semitic. She's fearless in that way. She does not care what people say. That's part of that is she's self-made. She owns her own company. She got all this stuff. And when I say self-made, self-made is the wrong word. She owns her own stuff. That's what I'm saying. And so there's a lesson to be learned here from Candace Owens. Now, again, that doesn't erase the harm Candace Owens has done. That doesn't erase the deeply problematic and harmful ideologies that she advances that undermine the dignity and the humanity and the legitimacy of Black people's work and lives and actions and aspirations and et cetera, and liberation struggles. I'm not saying Candace Owens is our hero. I'm not saying Candace Owens is our friend. I'm not saying Candace Owens is our ally, but Candace Owens absolutely deserves to be protected from unfair allegations of anti-Semitism, unfair allegations of Jew hate for two reasons. One, because of three reasons. One, it's just the right thing to do. Two, too many of us will be accused of the same thing. And so we need to hold a line of moral consistency here. Let me say one more thing, actually, before I even get to the other thing. We also have to be careful because while I agree with Candace Owens and her critique of Israel and her challenge to Rabbi Shmuley, there have been moments where she's veered into territories that I think are deeply dangerous. You know, the whole Hitler globalism, nationalism thing. She didn't say what people say she said, but what she actually did say, I still think is problematic. Saying that, you know, Hitler's domestic policy was the problem, you know, it's when he went international or global. You know, if his nationalist project were restricted simply to Germany, she says he would have been fine. I'm saying no, because Hitler's domestic practices, his just intra-Germany practices were violent. They were genocidal. They were anti-Semitic. They were evil. So there's just no way you can defend Hitler in any way, form, or fashion. And so I can't rock with that. People have accused her of Holocaust denial. On Piers Morgan, she says she's never done that. She says she's never denied the Holocaust or the pain or the harm caused to the Jewish people. Other people will say she still is. I need to see the evidence that she's denied the Holocaust because she keeps saying the opposite in every interview I see. She keeps affirming the trauma, the pain, and the legitimacy of the justice claims that Jewish people have made in response to the Nazi Holocaust because it was real, because it was evil, because of that. All I'm saying, actually, let me wrap it up in a very clear way. Candace Owens says a lot of wrong things. Candace Owens, to me, in my opinion, does a lot of things that I think are deeply harmful to us. And so I know we should not be following her, but there are moments where our interests intersect, and that is when we're fighting for justice, or at least speaking out against an injustice. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? We can share her perspective on this, but don't get too comfortable. We're welcoming people. Don't start welcoming people back to the cookout, giving them plates and invitations and plus ones, and then you find out at the end of the day that they don't actually rock with you, and that their agenda is still anti-Black. Their agenda is still problematic. It's just keep that in mind as well. That's all. But all that said, she whooped that ass. Sorry, Rabbi. And you're welcome to come on Night School and have a debate, conversation, discourse with me too. We've been talking about doing it. I'm happy to do it. But no ad hominems, man. Every time last thing I'll say, every time Candace Owens made a point, or every time Piers Morgan asked a question, all he did was go back to personal. Watch those people that can't have a real conversational debate without getting personal. That's all I'm gonna say.